Lee Harder, pastor of St. Paul Lutheran Church in Bulverde, Texas. Back from a week off spending time with my oldest daughter and her now official fiance, Dan. I was somewhat surprised this past week when confronted by a true blue, dyed-in-the-wool, spirited millennial socialist. The young lady in question, early 20s I would say, clearly informed me that after 40 years of ministry, I was obviously still ignorant about who Jesus is and where he would be politically. As far as she was concerned, Jesus was a progressive. Totally. Who would have suspected that in a doctor's waiting room that I would engage in political debate? In attentive silence, I allowed her the floor to inform me of all my mistakes of interpretation in not informing people of the real Jesus. Jesus was obviously a socialist, as far as she was concerned, as she counted off the proofs, leaving me exposed to her truth. First, she said, Jesus condemned the wealthy. Second, Jesus elevated women over men. Third, Jesus was clearly an environmentalist. And fourth, Jesus supported community ownership, as in socialism. Well, as I waited, it pleased me that she knew of Jesus, even if she didn't really know anything about him. When she paused to take a breath, I indicated just a moment of her time for a thought, so I could share something. So I came back counting off her points. First, I said, I don't believe Jesus was ever political. I mean, it's that render unto Caesar what is Caesar's thing and unto God that which is God's. That really doesn't sound all that political to me. Now, if I were to attach any kind of political description to Jesus, I really don't have any hesitation. It would have to be conservative. Mind you, it's not conservative as the world today or as the political parties define conservative. No. It would be conservative as God defines it. That is to say, his way in all things. Or if I was being less sensitive to someone of another point of view, I would say the right way, which is what God's way is, because there are no others. Second, Jesus never, ever condemned wealth. So I suppose he could be, maybe, a capitalist. Jesus, however, did condemn the misuse of wealth by greed, by selfishness, and other such things. That's not the same as saying he condemned wealth. Third, Jesus didn't elevate women. He treated them as God intended, as equals in status. In fact, one could take that a lot further by saying Jesus treated all people with the same love and compassion, regardless of their station in life. That's hardly what you'd call the progressive way of arranging things, which seems determined to create classes, each pitted one against another. I'm fairly confident Jesus spoke of unity in mind and spirit. As to the environmental thing, I simply said, you're right, Jesus walked because they didn't have cars. However, he did ride into Jerusalem. You should have seen the look I got, and from someone so young. Finally, as to the socialist ideal of communal ownership, the sharing and the caring that was seen between the disciples and those that were there for them, had its roots not in socialism, but in hospitality. It was not the idea or concept of an elite governing force to oversee the community's sharing and caring by human standards. not godly ones. I spoke as quickly as I could, so my response was indeed brief. However, with each point, she became more observably hostile. Fortunately, I was called into the office before anything further happened. I wished her a pleasant day, which I'm sure I had already threatened, if not totally destroyed. Now, I mention this exchange because in a matter of a few weeks, we will be voting in a midterm election. Voters need to be informed voters. They should know the issues and the positions of the candidates they support. They say that this vote could determine the direction of our nation for decades to come. Maybe it will. I don't know. I just know that God would expect me to be a knowledgeable and informed voter and not be blinded by something that doesn't matter, or worse, ignorant of positions that threaten our democratic principles, which, by the way, are a gift, a blessing given to us by God. Our founding fathers held divine providence, that is, God, as a blessing of guidance in the decisions we make. That is no less necessary when we vote. Any stance that endorses violence to accumulate power, advocates the silence of all opposition opinion simply because it is opposition, and seeks the abandonment of fundamental principles of government upon which our nation is founded should be held in contempt. More than that, no individual or group or body that entertains such attitudes should ever be allowed into a position of power to inflict their oppression on a nation. Think of those things as you vote in November. And those are my thoughts. God bless.